Mars station spinning 3,900 feet above the watery sphere.
I can see for miles and miles. I can see for miles and miles. I can see for miles and miles and miles and miles and miles.
This is Monitor Duty.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Wednesday. Welcome to another episode of the Monitor Duty. This is Reese signing on. Today, we are diving deep into our ethos, I guess you could say. Back to the beginnings of the show, we were largely focused on indie comics, and this summer, actually it wasn't even this summer, but it was earlier this year, Marmaduke fan shamed me by reminding me we haven't done an indie project in like a while. And
Thank you. I miss this. This is the stuff I live for.
Then it was like a week later, Twitless says, well, why don't we do this again? I was like, okay. The universe has spoken. And it was Twitless himself who suggested that we give a little attention to Joy Waller, also known as Evie, from the who did a lot of our incidental art that we've used.
Yeah. My avatar, a bunch of our avatars and stuff. Yeah.
Full disclosure, Joy did the very first piece of fan art I ever received for my comic, and I've always had a soft spot in my heart for her art, and this was the impetus for me to finally sit down and read her comic. So thank you for that.
Well, and also, I got to also give props too. She has done a little bit of art for Ideal Comics as well. If you go over to Global Comics, you can check out Joe Jobs' story number 2, and that is hers as well. That was my story, her pictures, and it was a real joy to work together. No pun intended on that project. So, but we're not here to talk about my comics. We're going to talk about Joy's comics. So, has anybody else besides me has read any of her oeuvre? Am I saying that right?
Oeuvre.
Catalog. Previously.
I follow her on Instagram, so I think I've seen like concept art for this going out as the comic was being developed. But my first time reading a finished work by Joy.
I also follow on Instagram, but I never open the app. So most of the time where I see any of her art is when she posts it in the Ideal Comics Discord, which she does fairly often, like Mermaid and stuff like that. So
yeah. Which I should probably post a link to that in the description so that other people can join along with the Ideal Comics party if they want. Twitless, have you read any of Joy's comics?
I'm in the same boat. Most of the art I've seen has been incidental. But I knew because I think it was from the Discord. She had said that she was posting, she was doing her own comic, and I was like, oh, definitely interested in reading that. I read, I think, the first couple of installments, and then then it's been a while. This is my first time reading the entire thing, although I've read it twice. So I'm very well prepped to talk about it.
Yeah, I also have a paper copy of her Ground Cry, which is a oh god, I did a review on my channel. I think on this one, a little review video. This is a great and brutal book. But that's not the one we're here to talk about today. We're talking about Miriam. And man, I love this story so much. So who wants to? I invited her on if she wanted to come on to talk about things. She said, "I'll just watch from the chat." So, which is fine. But who wants to talk about?
Yeah, I was gonna say we should definitely get her on sometime, even if it's just in whatever way she's comfortable with, not to grill her or anything, but to ask her some questions about it. I definitely have some to ask. And I definitely, I have very positive things to say about this comic. I do have some constructive critiques as well, and I think that's very useful to, mention some of those.
yes,
And so, but mostly several of the critiques are, they're almost like backhanded compliments. So, some of my critiques will also be compliments.
Which is amazing.
Yeah. So there's definitely, I think, a chunk to talk about. But one of the first questions I want to ask is like, what led to this story in the first place? Because it's a very interesting pitch for a story. And it's one of the things that struck me about it, even when I read the first. I think I read the first like 2 chapters that she posted when she was doing this, and I was just like, the thing that got me into it was just like the concept. So I might instead of burying the lead, I'll just give this out for our viewing audience. Miriam is a short piece. It's about 5-ish chapters, short chapters, and it is a comic book story. And the pitch is basically a road trip story, kind of a bromance type story, except it's not a bromance. It is a man and a woman who are both their wives cheated on them with each other. And so you have Jerry and Miriam, and you have Lizzie and Zoe, I think. And
Liz and Roz.
Roz, yeah. So, and then Roz and Miriam run off together, just abscond. And leaving Liz and Jerry just like heartbroken. And so the two of them go on a road trip to go kind of figure out what happened. And so that's the basic pitch of it. And like I said, what's really fascinating about it is that, how do I put this? I'm trying to figure out the best way to put this. This is technically a LGBTQ kind of story in terms of category, but it is an LGBTQ story told from outside of the LGBTQ community. Mm-hmm. And this is extremely rare. This is a unicorn. Is another thing that fascinated me about it, because most of the time, like Christians who usually don't touch on homosexuality at all, except to maybe just say it's bad and then move on. So to have an entire story that, a chunk of it is motivated by a lesbian looking for her wife who cheated on her. And like I said, a story told about the LGBTQIA plus asterisk, whatever they've added to it now.
Alphabet soup.
Right. So this story deals with those themes, and without preaching at you, it's very clear this story is operating outside of that community. Even kind of
the climax and the resolution is the opposite of that, right? Like it comes and it resolves itself naturally.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. It's like I said, it's so, like I said, the concept and the execution and just even the attempt at it is so unique. Yep. What it's doing and how it's approaching it, it's just like, this is just, the Christian community would not do this kind of a story typically, and the LGBTQ community would definitely not do a story like this. So in a way, it's a story that no one else would really tell.
Like double outside art.
Yeah, exactly. Evie's the only person I can think of who would tell a story like this, to my mind. So it's just that alone is just like is absolutely intriguing.
That element really struck me. So I kind of want to add to that. Mm-hmm. We're in an age where empathy comes up a lot as a political contentious topic, and ironically, it's used as like a club. You don't have empathy. This is a practice in empathy. We have a human straight male character and a human lesbian character. We see into both of these characters, what makes them tick, what motivates them. And it's asking us to empathize with both of them as they kind of come to see each other or come closer to each other. So it's a very unique story. I thought I understood what the pitch was, from the opening thing. And then when you see the twist, that it's a great hook. So it definitely is a high concept piece.
Yeah, my first question would be to just dive into like what made this story come to be, because it's not like, with a lot of other stories, it's like, oh wow, I'm such a fan of something that I needed to make something similar, and I'm like, I can't think of a story that this emulates. Like, is this I'm just so fascinated to even come up with, like, is this from life? Like, is this it's one of those things that it feels so out of pocket
like
in some ways.
Dream. Just happened one night.
I'm like, is this something that happened to someone in Evie's family? Because there's not like a television series or a book I can think of that like a story like this happens. So especially the way because it doesn't hit you over the head with it, but it's hinted that the straight guy and the lesbian might become a couple at the end, which again is something LGBTQ crowd would never touch, and even the Christian crowd would not be, I think, a huge. I don't know if they'd be against it, but I don't think I can't think of a single example where that's been done in
Well, I mean, it does seem like the sort of redemptive finish that you would expect from it, though, right? Like the people who end up in the bad situation, the morally wrong, are the two women who ran off together, while the people who end up happier are the ones who might have just ended up together in like the standard relationship.
No, you're right. I'm just saying that, like, can anyone name of any contemporary Christian creator who has ever attempted to like do that? I can't think of
even
any.
name you a
I
contemporary
no,
Christian creator.
I can't. I'm just saying I can't think of any examples because, like I said, it's just so outside of what both of those camps that are against each other would even
I agree, for sure.
attempt. I know. And once again, that's what makes it so fascinating.
Yep. One of the things that I really wanted to point out artistically about the thing that I really, really love is, well, first of all, Joy's style, and this is one of the things I have loved working with her on the project that she and I have, is it's so like emotionally evocative, right? The way she uses body posture, the way she uses facial design, but even the palette that this is in, this sepia tone, never when sort of rainbow story is just such a visually
Taking the rainbow out of the rainbow story.
It did, yeah. The rainbow flag is there, but it's not. There's no color to it. Or just the color is just
and it's still
brown.
flexible enough that you could tell when something is like a brief, like hazy dream flashback versus what's happening in real time.
Yep, absolutely. And I love. There's so much of the stuff that I like, and it was part of the thing is I mean, it's not a secret to anybody who's watched this program for any or its predecessor for any length of time that I am a giant friggin' sap, right? I'm borderline unstable when it comes to this sort of thing. So the fact that this is in some ways an anti-romance story that goes so hard and the characters are super vulnerable in it, I just absolutely love. One of the things though that I do want to hit on, and I don't necessarily think that this is in any way a detriment to the story, but I can understand why some people might have hesitancy to it, is it's a very high context story, right? So some of the scene transitions, some of the dialogue transitions, they leave a lot to the reader to understand. I don't believe it's in any way a hurdle that needs to be jumped, but I can see that some people would feel that there are places where it would seem jarring in places.
Yeah, that was one of my.
It's like the key scenes of a movie stitched together, where I'm so used to seeing something follow the Disney Hollywood plot structure that it's sort of jarring to see kind of like these quick jumps, and sometimes even like comedic, like we'll never find them. Next panel, I found them. I know my right. So sometimes it's using the truncated pacing for comedic effect, but the result is that every page has a lot going on.
Right.
And it feels like a 15-minute cut character study.
Well, and here's one of the things that I think is great is like, look at this page. It's a 2-panel page, right? But it still does a lot of a lot of
there's a lot of mood setting. It's just there's a lot of this comic has a lot of mood.
Yeah. But I mean, it's even some textual. Like, okay, like here, look at this.
Yeah, Reese, you cut out again. I think you jostled your mic.
Yeah, we lost you. You might have to drop out and come back in.
Am I back?
Maybe.
Yeah,
There you are.
Okay. So like I said, even this panel, it's doing a lot of heavy lifting. You've got this dialogue, right? Leading up from the page before, misery loves company, and I could use some company. Honestly, I could use some too, right? But the cigarette smoke and the thought balloon are like merging together to unify their thought process, right?
Yeah.
These characters have an equilibrium of communion between them, and that's demonstrated like just with like the way the panel is laid out.
No,
related to that,
yeah.
So real quick, Joy's art style makes almost no use of panel boxes, and so the way she does conveyance is really just through having graceful compositions. Like you move, it's amazing to see. I don't know if I could do this on purpose if I tried, but my eye flows from panel to panel without any actual panels, really.
I love how her she's very good at mood. And
Yeah.
I'm not to make this like, oh, well, you know, there might be a gender aspect to that, but I mean, there very well might be. I think men and women can sometimes see very different things and focus on different things in storytelling. And the fact that this story, even though there are some things to critique about it, the fact that it hits the emotional beats so very well, so very quickly, and communicates a lot with the like, this is a great example, I think, but you're getting, I think, a lot of nuance to two people saying essentially just a couple of lines, and you're getting a chunk of it through just their, you know, their posture, even the camera angles. You can just see, you know, Liz just this sort of we don't. Just this like shut down, and Jerry being the more like, you know, open to this concept, and you can see this emotional moment playing out very well in just a couple of panels. So like I said, she's very good. Like, her style is communicating the emotions and emotional nuance quite well. And the bottom of there, it's just the shading on Jerry, just as he's just, you know, just emotionally distraught. A lot of cues being put in there that some of them subtle, that communicate, like I said, the tone and the mood very, very well. So again, this I think this is a great comic to read, just for that alone. Just some effective mood and tone setting. And I think there's things to pick up, you know, from this.
Yeah, and when it comes to mood, I was going to say that I think that the color palette really helps kind of mitigate how quick and snappy and kind of almost like jolty the story is, how it's jumping from point to point, because this very soft, very almost like nostalgic color palette makes it seem like you're just seeing things as a memory, like a series of vignettes. And I think like it still has some story structure problems, but it does a lot to mitigate the structure problems at the same time.
I want to address a comment from the chat. Can't they have this is Isaac Larkin, sorry. Can't they have a different relationship that isn't romantic, like your work wife? You spend so much time together that you just because a different but strong relationship. The comic does not spell things out. At the very end, it is it's kind of it's open ended. You can read it. I'm a sap, so I read it as the two of them are together as a couple. But it's open ended enough that you could read it as they're just friends at the end as well. So I think Evie did that on purpose. I think that, again, also allows for some subtlety to the storytelling. It doesn't have to be spelled out.
Yeah, you could read it that he goes with her to finally recoup with her parents as like an emotional support buddy, or you could read it that she's trying to show her parents like, hey, look, I'm normal now. I have a guy. Like you could read it in either direction there.
I will say that as evidence for my reading, there's a couple of moments that are very deliberate that at least show that Jerry is attracted to her. So like that happens. So I'm not just completely out of pocket with my reading, but like I said, to Evie's credit, the story is a bit open ended. Reese, we lost you again. Okay.
Yeah, I'm
all right.
That's that's the other part of it too. Is like when it comes to Jerry's attraction to Liz is obvious, but also in the comment about the work wife, that's a trap.
That's
how affairs happen.
That's true. That is accurate. So again, basic pitch, like I said, is they go on this road trip, and they kind of bond a little bit over their shared heartbreak. I'm not going to say trauma, but it's really heartbreak is what they're dealing with.
Well, and that's one of the things I also wanted to point out too. Is one of my favorite tropes is the road comic. The road story, the road trip. Maybe it's coming from the middle of Nebraska, but man, I just love that whole thing, and I think it's so appropriate for this story to dig into all of that. And I also want to point out this page here.
I was about to say, yeah, that's a look. You talk about this page.
just the amount of everything that goes into the road trip in here and planning it out and the doing of it.
So
and everything.
This is a fascinating one because there really isn't a sequence here. So this is a very experimental comic page, and I think this is one that works very well. So some experiments don't work super well, some do. I think this one works pretty well. It can overload you, but on a second read, I think this one is good, and it's basically a collage of stuff. But when you read the collage of stuff, you can very quickly pick up not a sequence, but associations with the concepts, and then you can kind of fill in the details about how this contributes to the story. A couple examples of that. We see them, there's a table, top left quadrant, and there's a bunch of papers and some stuff there, okay. And then we see the collection of just gear and maps and things, and that's okay, it's like they're planning this trip. Jerry is got like a little he's clearly thinking about Miriam, while Liz is thinking about Roz in the bottom right. And so you get the emotional stakes of what these two people, why they're going on this trip, all the stuff they're assembling for the trip. And then in the bottom, you see that they're in the house. And so it's okay, you put together a sequence, or at least not maybe a sequence, you put together how these elements fit together and fit into a narrative, even though there isn't a sequence being told. And that's again, for comics, very experimental, but the experiment works. So, I mean, kudos, golf clap.
Related, in TV, there's the TV montage sequence. And a lot of comic writers, when they imitate that, they'll deliberately imitate, scene, 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 scene. This is a comic-specific montage sequence where single-page composition communicates that a lot of things are going on across time.
Yeah. I completely agree. This is the other thing I really like about this page, is that this is comic specific language. Normally, like you just said, even Will Eisner was of the mind that there's a lot to get from filmic language. Jack Kirby yanked a lot from animation, so comics have long borrowed from cinema, but there are a lot of other examples that I'm thinking of Drouillet, actually, from Bande Dessinée, who you could just do so much more with a comic page than just panel A, panel B in a 9 panel grid. And so this one, like I said, this is contributing to a sequential art story, but it's using the page in a very unique way, a way that would only, I think, really fit in comics. And like I said, not really a sequence, but pieces that help you fit into a larger sequence. And like I said, this when you put the pieces together, it's not confusing what's going on in this page. It really isn't. It's a bit. Go ahead.
One of the things too that I think is really interesting about this page specifically is writers have spilled a lot of ink over defining the sequential aspect of sequential arts, right? Yeah. And a lot of artists that I have seen have really tried to break that concept, right? Laying panels out of order, or using the page to try to introduce alternate ways of reading the flow of action. And it doesn't always work. Sometimes it doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's exactly.
But this works really, really well.
No, it does. The only point,
that's kind of the thing is it's sequential, but it's not a sequence. It's part of this comics project, but it borders on collage. And No, I completely agree. Yeah. The only point of criticism that I've got for it, it's a bit hard. It could be overloading, but it's not too bad.
on that front. I've
It
seen.
feels like walking to a girl's messy room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a criticism. This feels like a art school comic where it has like the raw quality of creation to it without the polish. And like you can nitpick about polish all day, but to me that's a big appeal of indie comics and kind of like art school style. It reminds me of being in art club when I was still an art student, right?
Well, yeah. And I think a lot of the same kind of things, so the techniques that Joy uses in this book are not unlike the ones that some of the ones that like Bill Watterson went to bat and to fight over with his panel when he got his panel structure, and trying to like, play with the sequence, but also not be held down by that. So I also love that Jerry's just really willing to call himself an idiot.
We got an interesting comment from Joy in the chat. On the romance, I did indeed leave it open because I thought some people might not buy the relationship going in one definite direction. Some people could see a romantic relationship, others may not.
Yeah, others may not buy Liz being bi or ungayed.
Ungayed. I bought it. I bought it entirely. But no, I think ending it the way you did was the right way to do it, because you planted the seeds. It was very clear for me to see, at least for me. Yes, they're together. But if you didn't buy it, you were given a slight another way of reading that, which I think works really well.
By having it indefinite, it puts the emphasis on the key point is Liz being reconciled to her family through meeting Jerry. So it's like. I kind of want to get back into the plot a little bit because I want to think about like the kind of like the quality of empathy and straight man plus lesbian on a whirlwind adventure. So this might be cheating, but I think I recall years ago Joy and I had a conversation about like our thoughts on storytelling, and one of the things I was talking about was like I was trying to write a teenage female character, and that's a hard headspace for me to get into. Because I wasn't a teenage girl, right? But you want to live authentically in that world, and I can't help but notice that a big, strong, straight male with the Giga Chad features is the protagonist. So this is kind of an interesting experiment in Joy
looks like
get into that headspace, right?
He looks like John Travolta from Grease to me. I don't know if that was.
He's got the leather jacket, yeah.
He's got the pompadour. He's got the classic, car, with the fins on it and everything, right? So there's definitely this mid-centuries aspect of throwback to it too. So
Yeah. So no, that's to pick up what Marmaduke is saying. One of the things
more like Matt Dillon from The Outsiders, but similar zone.
Another thing that's very interesting about this story, specifically about the pairing of these two characters who come from polar opposites of the sexual spectrum, at least, is the fact that often in media, these two sides are literally at war with each other, right? The straight man and the lesbian are like nature's natural enemies. And at least in pop culture, the idea that you would get genuine empathy or connection, shared common ground between these two polar opposites is, again, it's another thing that I can't think I'm sure there is an example somewhere, but it is not common. When you watch evening television and they have straight couples and specifically like straight males and lesbian females, they're not portrayed as getting along. Usually one of them is the bad guy who needs to be has to have his comeuppance from the other, the lesbian in particular, or she's a lesbian and she's shown why the straight men are so bad, and the fact that both of them have heartbreak and the heartbreak is the same and the two of them can look each other in the eyes and say, I feel your pain. That's, again, I can't think of a story that's ever happened in. So it's so that specific point of empathy that brings two sides together that we don't see together, at least in pop culture, is another That's another unique point about this story that bears commenting on. Marmaduke, was that kind of some of the direction you were going in with
and
that?
maybe getting back to queer theory, I'd actually be interested in asking Joy this, if this was deliberate or not. But the plot reads like a deconstruction of kind of an LGBTQ story. So, like in a lot of maybe like Yuri fan fiction, a plot contrivance would be, the girl is miserable with her abusive, toxic masculine boyfriend. She escapes from him into lesbianism. Harley Quinn and Poison Ivy are this. Courage the Cowardly Dog did a plot on this that's really popular in kind of queer theory circles. So the twist is the woman escapes from the straight man into lesbianism so she can finally be happy. But then the straight man is a human being, and we get the impression that he's floored by this, and he just didn't see this coming. Now it's asking us to humanize the straight man from that story, which is kind of an interesting twist. And then he does, like, there's a scene where he like loses his temper and draws a gun. So it's not like Jerry is the perfect, knight in shining armor. He at least has a temper.
Okay, to be fair, he had just been the victim of a violent assault.
He had just been assaulted. Yes.
So I'll be to be fair.
Right, and so I think that's actually, correct me if I'm wrong on here, but I feel like that is an intentional move on that, because one of the things you have in the gay story in the fun home version of this story is that.
Oh, did you have to bring Bechdel up? Why?
Yeah. Because she's my nemesis.
Why? I was having a good time talking before.
Okay. Yes, but the Bechdel in this case is a stand-in for the standard gay narrative.
Okay.
Because yeah,
I know. I'm just
right. But what it is in that one is you have is the standard lesbian experience is one that exists to use the heteronormative male as a punching bag, and so one of the things we have in here is that the temptation then would be to either play the postmodern temptation would be to play Jerry as either an aggressor or as some sort of simp, where he just wasn't, didn't have and can't understand and doesn't have what it takes to keep her, and doesn't understand that he's just so plain, right? And so one of the aspects that I think it brings in there is that Jerry is he's pining for his lost wife with reason, because one of the things that this chapter 3 especially shows is that from his perspective, he had won the jackpot with Miriam, right? Yeah. And then he had it stolen from him. And how does he cope with that? Well, his cope is he's going to demand answers. He wants some sort of accountability of information, if nothing else. And
oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Almost said Miriam. Evie says it's actually a take on the movie Imagine Me and You, which is about a married woman getting with another woman. I felt bad for the husband in that movie. I don't like cheating in movies in general, but it felt like the husband's feelings just weren't allowed. I feel the same way. There's often this triumph when in a lot of these Hollywood stories, especially postmodern ones, where it's like, yeah, I cheated on my husband. It's the best thing ever. I hated, actually not a postmodern story, but Kate Chopin's The Storm is another one I hated that has the same kind of idea behind it. And they find that one in a lot of high school and colleges. Yeah. But the thing that's fascinating about this story is that again, another thing is, without being too on the nose about it, well, maybe a little on the nose, but the cheaters are portrayed as fairly toxic. They are not shown to be correct.
That's what I like, because I don't mind cheating in a story at all. I just don't really like the current fanfare around it. Like, this was the right thing to do every situation. They don't even try to balance it out with I did an awful thing, but it led to the better end. if you properly cover like the feelings involved, what it does to the other people, everything, like you could tell an interesting story with it. It's just not what you see anymore. And this does show the other side of it.
Yeah, it does, and it shows like it really focuses on the heartbreak here, which again is interesting. I was gonna say that there is one of the stories that I kind of liked that turned that a little bit. Evie, you might like this. I think it's called Forever. It's a story about two people who die. It's is it Fred Armisen, the guy from Portlandia, and his wife. They both die, and they both basically like there's an afterlife essentially, and in that afterlife, his wife just kind of leaves him at a certain point, just literally just ups and just walks away. And
Yeah, it was called Forever. It's 2018.
Yeah, and so he finally follows her, and he finds that she's just like found a bunch of new friends and people to hang out with, and he's been this supportive kind of a little bit of a cuck, a bit beta, this whole series, and at the very end he finally just says, "Screw you! I've been nothing but like faithful and supportive, and you just left me without even talking to me," and so it was one of those rare moments where the husband was allowed to get upset. And allowed to kind of say, you hurt me, and you've been acting very selfishly.
And Fred's like one of the best actors you could pick for that because he has that demeanor where he could just seem like he's a pushover forever until the final snap happens.
Right. So that like I said, I remember that scene specifically because it was a moment that is rare. Because Evie is correct. This doesn't happen a lot in films where the husband gets to kind of say, actually, you've broken my heart and you're wrong. No, this Miriam is like I said, is in very rare territory to portray a story like this.
So, I was going to say something, and then I realized my mic was muted, and then I had to blow my nose.
Isaac Larkin says he's either shown as the trap or an evil skimmer that keeps her in one place of unhappiness. Yeah, that narrative is so common. It's a trope. And like I said, what's funny about that trope is that it's very clear that it's a like modern postmodern thing because when you watch like Turner Classic movies, like that is not what they portray most of the time. And it's just so funny because it's like I think post-sexual revolution where it's like that trope I think really comes to become a kind of a master trope really for storytelling.
Definitely.
At a certain point it becomes shorthand. You can just see you'll see who they cast as the husband in a film and you just know already. Oh, that's the narrative. So it's yeah.
TV and movies are very good at encoding a message in even just things like visuals and how the actor carries themselves. So yeah, the irony is you could imagine a movie version of this with Jerry as a blithering, ugly, evil jerk and all the same plot points almost. So what Joy is kind of doing is rescuing those characters out of a common trope.
Mm-hmm. Yep. The very pitch of the story kind of cues you into the fact you're going to get something different.
And that actually comes back to one of the things that I was going to talk about earlier. I remember what it was that I won't argue that there are specific moments in this story that aren't a little on the nose, and I don't even mind that because they're in the middle of people's conversations about things. So people are going to say the things they're going to say, right? But one of the things that I appreciated about this is that it feels honest to people who have actually studied it because the amount of infidelity and domestic violence that occurs in same-sex relationships is not talked about. It's foreboding to be addressed, and it's huge.
Yeah.
It's massively large. It's a big problem.
I know the domestic violence is quite high.
Oh yeah, it's huge. In fact, one time I was walking out of the Walmart and there were these two lesbians that were punching each other in the mouth, like absolute fight in the front seat of a car. And we walked into the Walmart and we're debating on whether we should be calling the police. And then we got our stuff and left, and they were making out in the front seat by the time we walked past again. So.
Can we go back to the flag moment? I just like just how that was handled. You don't have to scroll up. I loved how that was handled because without I'm going to throw a little shade at Doug Tenable for a second, and it's only because of just
Cool.
he tells stories differently. But if Doug were to tell a story that had this in it, it would be more didactic, because Doug's more didactic, and it would be didactic. It would be like homosexuality is wrong. I'm gonna have a character either like straw man it and then be told he's wrong, or there's something similar. Evie took a different tack. And so we see that at the very beginning, he's been cheated on. His wife Miriam's run away with another woman, and then like I think it's like the next like page, there's like a pride parade in the background, and Jerry doesn't say anything. He doesn't go on a tirade. He's just like, it's just the juxtaposition of just like, my heart's broken, they're celebrating this lifestyle, and then there's just a guy at Jenner just like cleaning up, and he's just like, yeah, they used to wear clothes at these things, like that's all he says, and that's all that needed to be said in order for the emotion to tell you that something is wrong in this narrative. Something is wrong with the situation.
The
Actual subtext.
Yeah, that's all that was needed, and like everything was given that you needed to get from that, and in my opinion, it would it's better to do it that way in this narrative than to have been didactic.
And the thing about it is the morality of homosexuality doesn't need to be addressed in this story in the same way that the morality of bigamy doesn't need to be addressed in the Jacob narrative in the Bible, in the Torah, right? In the Torah, you see what happens with Jacob and his 4 wives, and what a horrible decision that was.
Right.
So,
Well, and also this more focus on the choice of cheating than anything else. Like that's the bigger focus, and the bad end happens to the people who kind of just follow their selfish ways. This actually feels almost unintentionally like a Buddhist story to me, where the solution is to, instead of following your flippant desire, which even for the main people is like going after their lost loves is the flippant desire, helping somebody else would bring you closer to your destination than the thing you want.
Yep.
I also want to say that if you take the Christian interpretation of this, I also like the fact that it is communicating the depth of the impact of sin without needing to preach. And this is something that gets leveled at a lot of Christian media. Christian media is too preachy. It's just going to say homosexuality is wrong, and then that character is always a bigot. Here you get to see what the wages of sin are. You see this guy, they're all celebrating, they're prancing naked in the street, celebrating degeneracy, and it's just a broken-hearted guy. He's just left with a broken life. And it's like, that's why we say, that's why we're talking about sin. We're not just talking about it because we want to be mean to people. It's like the impacts of these things, whether it's infidelity or other types of immorality, they leave a blood trail. They leave. Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
No, I'm just saying that like that. This is communicated without preaching, but it's a very strong message, and it communicates it with just like the mood and of how the characters are being portrayed on the panel. And like I said,
get to sit there and experience it.
Yeah, and so like I said, that's subtlety in like a Christian message. I like that. That's worthy of note as well.
And one of the things that I think is great about that too, in this story specifically, is that that so many divorce stories focus on, as they should, on the detrimental effect of divorce on children, right? And they should, because to quote Andrew Clavin, divorce destroys the planet your children live on, right? But in marriage, you live on that planet too, right? And so, the abandonment that these people feel, it does like impact them, and you don't. And it's like one of the things that even said earlier, Dre said earlier in the chat, is that in the story, so many the stock story, the average lesbian narrative, the abandoned husband has to suck it up and appreciate that his wife is going on to her happier future rather than be hurt, right?
Right.
And in this comment that I've highlighted, she says Liz's story was just, what if she left another woman? What would the movie allow her pain? It came out of really never seeing any lesbian romances with bad endings. And I think that's once again here we still through the eyes of Liz and through the eyes of Jerry, we get to see that abandonment is its own crime, right? And I think that's an important thing on that.
Relating to Liz, I want to emphasize something about Liz's character. So Jerry's the protagonist. Liz kind of enters into his life as the twist. So Liz is initially mocking of him and his kooky idea to go after his wife. Then she goes along with it. She seems to kind of like, it's a fun road trip to get our wives back, right? That's the fun twist. And even though she's along for the ride, Liz is the cynic. Like, this isn't a good idea. You don't have to do this. Eventually, she gets to express her rage. So maybe connecting to your kind of like Buddhist interpretation, the metal, it's kind of like they're both right and they're both wrong. It is kind of a stupid idea to go after your wives, but it's actually good that they both went after their wives because they didn't get what they wanted. But
they led it to each other instead.
They confronted the problem. Yeah.
Mm.
Oh yes. This is a great scene.
Miriam.
I think this is also the breaking point for his perspective, right? Because up until he is physically assaulted by her, he still has the image in his head that this is his wife, right? And then once it's assaulted, and that's probably like why there's that such big visual reaction of like pulling out the gun and everything. It's like this is like seeing an animal that you loved for years, but have been so separated that it was in the wild and became feral and attacked you.
It
right?
is
Like, this is no longer the thing you knew anymore.
It is a bit of a violation of Chekhov's gun.
Yeah.
But that one of my minor critiques here is that I think this is something that I think would have been a little better. I think the impact would have hit a little better if it had been signaled or planted a little earlier. If we'd got, like I said, the whole Chekhov's gun thing is that fact that we see the gun and then we know it's going to be shot. We don't even know he has a gun. So he pulls it out of like nowhere. So it's the meme for me is that, well, that escalated quickly. It's like, that got out of hand fast. Like that's kind of what it feels like. Cause he just, he's a smiling guy.
He's like the type of guy who would have a gun on him though.
Are you sure? I don't think so.
So here's the thing
he's
is
designed, he feels like somebody who would have a gun on him.
I agree with Metal, but the thing is like I had in my mind, I had implanted the gun into this scene because it's on the cover. And so, I've read it several times.
Yeah.
So I had to go back to see if it was on this page or not, but it does not appear to be.
I think a quick panel of like, oh, you have a gun. It's like for protection. We're going on a road trip. Or if it actually would have been I think it might have been funnier if it had been like Liz's gun. Cause she's like, I'm getting into the car with a guy I don't know. I'm carrying a gun, of course. Like that would make sense. Then he pulls her gun. So I think there's just maybe a little bit of a better way. One of my larger criticisms of Miriam, and this is like I said, it's I want more. That's the backhanded criticism. I want more connective tissue. I want more development of some of these characters. I want a little more context for some of the scenes. But at the end, that's just like, I want to see more of it, which is, like I said, a positive thing. I don't want to see less of it, which would be like definitely something's really wrong with your story if you want to see less of something. So in this case, it's just like, ooh, I would have loved to have seen more of this, more connective tissue, more setup. I think those are my three main criticisms
She says it actually did put the gun in the collage scene, but hit it a bit too well. We'll definitely put it in more clearly, adding the second comment next time.
Okay, well now I have to go back and find it.
Hidden in his coat.
You play Where's Waldo here?
Yeah, I think it is.
Right there, underneath like the beer bottle, everything, isn't it? Like just go a little south next to her head. Is that not the gun? I could barely see the screen.
Here?
So.
No, those are just like.
Oh, okay, sorry. I'm looking at the screen, but it's like really tiny to me.
Oh, okay.
And I don't have the thing pulled up. It just was vaguely gun shaped from my distance.
I see something right here on the edge of the coat.
It says in the coat pocket. Okay.
Oh my gosh, that is hidden too well. Okay.
It's in the coat pocket. Okay.
Okay, that's hidden too well. But even if it had been there,
Does Gary have his concealed carry Come on, guys.
But I think part two is like talking about impression. The first person that I saw when I saw this character was like, I feel like this could have been played by a young Matt Dillon, right?
Yeah.
And like the jacket he's wearing and everything, I just assumed this character would have a gun on him.
Yeah, I was
Like,
not surprised.
That's my
that was there at
bias
all.
thinking he would have it, but like it just like, yeah, it makes sense.
I was a little surprised he decided to kill her. That was the wait, what?
Yeah, that was a big
like,
jump.
That was a big
It was
jump.
like, oh no, this is old Yeller time now. This is no longer my wife.
But the fact he like
Yeah.
pulled the gun was not that surprising to me. But the fact that he was like, that was like, it's a death time. It's like,
So related
Also-
to pacing, I just want to say something about the pacing. That's kind of like the same backhanded compliment. But if this was a Japanese visual novel, it'd be like how I teamed up with a lesbian to get our wives back, and it'd be 300 chapters, which would probably be too much. I love the interaction between Jerry and Liz. I would like to see more of slice of life adventures with them. One thing that Joy did that really impressed me is the ear for dialogue, which a lot of people who can plot can't write dialogue, but they feel natural without hitting you with a thousand words. It feels like a real interplay between two people. So she's asked about, she's mentioned, she's more of an artist than a writer. She's got a natural ear for dialogue. So I just encourage more of that slice of life, let your characters talk to each other and see what happens approach, because that was a real strength.
Very Thelma and Louise. I agree with Isaac Clarke in there. I think part of that too might come from the inspiration, just talking about how part of the drive was from like movies and stuff where this never played out. And a lot of the dialogue and the way the pacing is going feels very more like you're doing a movie script than not. It seems like it's actually focused around the dialogue and then setting all of the scenes to it. So that's probably one of the benefits to that part.
I
do.
I get caught up. I just got to say this one last thing, and I'll let you guys keep going.
Yeah.
This end panel on this page. There's been an attempted, maybe 2 attempted murders in the parking lot of this store. The clerk just comes out and says, "Hey, anybody know what happened to the wine?"
Somebody's got to pay for this.
I think there's technically like 3 attempted murders.
There's probably 3.
Because there's the wine bottle, which, like I said, it could have killed him.
Absolutely.
There's him pulling the gun, and then there's them almost running them over. So that's I think
Frames
3
to
at
the left.
least. Yeah.
There's three felonies at least.
Yeah. I will say that one of the, as strong as I think as some of the mood setting and some of the nuanced dialogue, there were some pieces that I think needed more development. I want to see, for what this is, I think it's fine. And that's another thing that we were talking about this backstage. But when it comes to people who maybe aren't, like this isn't your cup of tea, one thing to keep in mind is the fact this is Denny O'Neill's advice, and he took it from Goethe when he was when Danny O'Neill was reading Contract with God. Danny O'Neill's a superhero guy. He's like, this is Will Eisner's not my usual cup of tea. But then he started reading it, and then in the foreword to one version of Contract of God, he like I said, he references Goethe, and Goethe basically says, you want to judge a piece of art by its own rubric, essentially. What are its own goals? What is it trying to be? So you don't go into a romance film and say, where are all the kung fu action scenes are missing? That's just not how you judge a romance story. You need to judge a romance story by what makes a good romance story, and you need to judge an indie comic book project that's definitely being more experimental and emotional and nuanced on these particular dramatic points. Like, what is it trying to be, right? And so I think for what this is trying to be, and even in terms of its length, because it's not trying to be blankets. It's not, so for what it's trying to be, a shorter piece that deals with these issues, I think it's nailing, pretty high on its own rubric. I will say that there are a couple of things that I still would think can be improved. Like I said, the relationship between Liz and Jerry is, I think that the seeds are there. but I want to see more about like why do these people why do they become friends? Like, I know that they both have heartache, but it takes more than just a couple of panels for that to really sink in. So when she embraces him and kisses his forehead, I don't feel as much as I should feel if I don't feel as much as I could feel if I'd been given more context to see, oh, this is why those characters have developed a stronger bond. And I feel like if you'd given them more stops along the road trip, because one of the story kind of says, hey, it teases the idea of the road trip, but like their first real stop in the story, they already run into Miriam. It's like, yeah, I know that there more may have actually happened, technically, but really for what the story gives us, it's like the first gas stop. It feels
And
like
a road trip story is all about the stops.
yes. So I feel like I needed more.
That's it. I agree with you. That would definitely have been the place for that to play out a little more.
Yeah.
But that's part of what I meant when I talked about it being high context, right?
Mm-hmm.
Having been on loads of road trips, right? That that's when you have those trauma bonding experiences where you run out of gas or your tire explodes or you end up in some farmer's fields because you read the map wrong.
Yeah. But I need to see
have
this.
like a whole thing where it's like this could have taken more than one day. So now
Right.
they have to think about like renting a hotel room together. But that means now of like getting two separate beds. Like how are things going to play out having to share the same hotel room?
Exactly. We need this because otherwise, like I said, some of the payoffs aren't paying off as well as they could be. And to push back just a little bit on Reese's point, you're entirely right about all those emotions, but it's not my job as the audience to do the storyteller's work for him or her. And the reason I say that is because there's another comic I want to talk about soon where the authors utterly rely on that. They're like, here, I'm gonna tease a couple of aura moments. You tell the story, and it's like, no, I'm paying you a chunk of money. You tell the story. So I think it is important.
I'm not saying you're wrong. Here's part of the thing is, and this might be, actually we've talked about this with some of Tenaple's works too, right? Sure. Where I don't have that same reaction to it because, it's not work for me to fill in those gaps, right? That's just part of like that lived experience kind of thing. Maybe it's because I'm not quite as old as dirt, but I'm getting there. Right? And so it's easy for me to front load the things I read with the things I've lived and the other things I've read, right? And that's kind of that's the way the high context things work, right? Is you have these things that you go into it knowing, right? But at the same at the same time, I'm not saying you're wrong,
right? Yeah.
For me, it wasn't any work at all to understand how these people got to this point, right?
I want you to,
after the felonies
to bridge this gap. I connect with the characters. I want to connect more with them.
Yeah.
I just watched the Mario movie with my nephew and niece, so it's fresh in the brain. But there are like two scenes in the Mario movie where they characterize the characters, and those are great. But then I want them to characterize it. All those scenes do is they make me think, no, don't stop. I don't want Mario Kart sequences. I want you to stop and let the characters talk for a little bit.
I felt the whole time.
So when Joy pauses and lets Jerry and Liz talk, a lot of stuff comes out that makes them feel real. But I guess I didn't get to spend enough time with them to feel that come out. And then the Charles Schultz technique is he didn't come up with gags. He just sit around and kind of like imagine his characters talking to each other. And whenever something funny happened, then he'd write that down. We need some of the, I want to see a little bit more of that buddy comedy. Yeah, but what Twitless said, I want to see the development of this friendship building a little more.
Yeah, I want to see the ups and downs because like I imagine they would have a lot to disagree with or even fight about initially. I think they do have a little bit of natural chemistry, but like they're both dealing with raw wounds. Like there's gonna be some fights in that car, or there's either be a lot of stewed silence, or there's gonna be some fights in that car as they hash stuff out. Like, and that there's a lot of fruit for very nuanced drama as just, even if it were just them in the car talking to each other about their relationships and what they were like dealing with, even if it's not like, oh, we need to do a bunch of like tropey, now we're being chased by Farmer Henderson through the cornfield. We don't have to do that.
No.
But like
Character building, right? Like,
right, yeah.
some of the stuff, like, say if they did have to stay the night or whatever. Like,
that's a good scene. I like that one.
Sad Robot.
Yeah.
Says like the problem is, how does this tie into the main plot, right? How does it stop becoming too episodic? Well, it depends what you think the plot is, right? If the plot are these two characters coming to terms with things together, then the dialogue between them is part of it. And maybe part of how they come to terms with everything is after the whole, like, how are we going to handle this? They might be awkward in there, and one of them might just start reminiscing about their lost partner. Right. Mm-hmm. And that might remind the other one of some time. And then they start bonding over like shared experiences because they both went through different things with their partners. Like all of these things are contributing to the plot because the characters are the plot. We don't need the Farmer Henderson chase. Right?
Yeah.
That doesn't contribute anything necessarily at all. But like, the car breaking down in the middle of nowhere is one of those scenes where characterization can come out and bonding can happen after fights. Is you got to explode and then come back together, right? That's how it goes.
Your pitch scene of them just figuring out like who's sleeping where at the motel, like that alone is like, you get so much,
especially
just out of
in
that.
This specific dynamic too.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I feel like that one has to happen. Anyway, so that's again, it's a backhanded compliment, because it's like, I want to see more, but in order for that kiss, when she kisses his head and holds him to her bosom and he's like, oh wow, boobs. In order for that one right there, in order for this scene to have, it's good, but in order for it to have the full impact that it needs, I need more. That
it is less weight than the imagery.
The reason it's leaving us craving, wanting more, is the short story element is solid. A good short story, you shouldn't take a good short story and stretch it into 400 pages. But we're wanting to see the core idea of the short story developed a little more. But the structure of the short story itself is the emotional weight of the short story is very impactful.
Yeah. So the only other thing I'm going to say regarding, since we're on constructive criticism, there were some scenes where I needed some additional context, like for clarity's sake. I think the ending is probably the biggest culprit. The ending is Jerry throws him, spoiler alerts, by the way, for anybody. But Jerry kind of does a moment of self-sacrifice. And her two toxic villains and
are they ever toxic?
They are quite toxic. They're running their car. Is this a reference to, what's that movie where is it
Thelma and Louise? It was
it Thelma and Louise? It was like, is that what we're referencing there?
I think this panel is right out of Thelma and Louise.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Holding and everything.
Yeah.
And even the fact that she's designed with like the handkerchief scarfing over her hair, like they look almost exactly the same too.
So they do their they run the car, and then the very end of it, it looks like a nuclear bomb has gone off, and I'm still trying to puzzle out exactly, because she threw a motel chair. Okay, I got that. Great eye narrowing. Vroom, cool. I'm tracking it. We're all good. He throws, and then like mushroom cloud. So and then it says end, and I'm like, that explosion looked like somebody died. So I know that Jerry didn't die from the epilogue, but I was like, did they Thelma and Louise themselves?
I assumed that they died. That was my reading of it too. Yeah.
I kind of guessed that.
Yeah.
I might have privately wished it.
My whole reading was, and I was talking earlier about how like who gets the good end and who gets the bad end. So, well, it's the people who burnt everybody and made the most selfish actions that had the bad end. But can I push against
that a little bit? I actually hope that isn't the case, because Evie's been so nuanced up to this point that having it be okay.
They did.
All right.
Word of God, canon.
But you know
I'm just gonna say
interpretation. It's a good story because of that, right?
That's true.
Choose not to read.
Okay, I don't think you can choose that after seeing that cloud. But to be fair, but I will say, sorry, I'm getting over a cold.
They come crawling, smoldering out of the ashes.
I would actually, to be honest, I would rather they live, because I think the story is focusing so well on the emotional consequences of what these actions are. I don't need the mushroom cloud. It's so much more impactful to see that in many cases the toxic couple go and they live their lives, and the real impact, the price they pay is a spiritual cost. That, you know, like we don't see necessarily the nuke that like takes them out. It's the fact that they're living a sinful life that is, you know. So I think that with the story that's been told so far, I think it's a stronger ending personally. It's funny. It's funny to do it this way, but I'm saying
back to the yes, from that perspective, I completely agree. But I have like this almost accidental Buddhist reading of this story. And in that case, them taking like this extremely selfish action that's like the culmination of all of their selfish actions. And this other guy doing what is mostly a selfless action, though there's still some self-interest there, right? 'Cause he's bonded with this person, leads to them living and the other people taking themselves out.
I think it's too heavy. I really think, again, because the story's been so subtle.
Let me give you a subtle ending on this. Okay, their death is the merciful ending. They can't victimize each other or anyone else ever again. Their reign of terror is over.
Yeah,
it's mercy
I know.
to them that they're taking out.
I'm just saying that the pitch of the story that's been told, because Evie's been trying to not be so like blunt, that the story almost goes in the opposite direction of what its tone has been so far.
Twitless, you're describing the end of a solid character study. I like that as a subtle ending, and this is kind of a madcap ending. Now,
it is madcap. Yeah, I agree.
There is a goofy kind of like explosive, and partially due to the pace, but you know, like the gun scene, the fact that it is kind of a buddy comedy road trip send up. There is like a weird, I guess this is the indie comics thing, is I kind of like having just weird or not not this polished.
Yeah,
not
Kino.
Ending.
Yeah, a little. I don't know.
I like the Kino ending.
I think you're right about a pregnant ending. A theoretical pregnant ending would be an interesting character contrast.
I agree with Reese that in a sense that I agree with the fact that the merciful part, but real life isn't as merciful as. And I'm not even saying this has to be like real life. I'm just saying that the what the story has been delivering to me so far in its emotional tone.
Cam videos. There's way more weird like.
That's not what I'm trying to. I'm trying to say that
yeah, I know what you mean.
I get it.
I watched a thing with my wife yesterday where there was a dude who like shot his it was a cheating story, but they're like everybody was just terrible, like on drugs and everything. And this dude shoots his competitor, and then before he can go to prison for like years for shooting this dude, he like drives headlong into a dump truck and dies like a month before he was supposed to be sentenced.
Say Levy.
Yeah, and I think the ending doesn't actually seem that disruptive.
Same thing I ever saw.
Because the Miriam herself, the titular character, struck me as the type of person that might end up in such a catastrophic situation. It had like the temperament of it. The second the wine scene happened, like for me, the wine scene is what sets up the ending.
Maybe I don't know. It's just I don't think it's doing it for me quite so well.
This is another issue of like
it is Kino
pacing and plot setup, where you could set up a death scene where it's like, well, okay. For a death scene to feel narratively appropriate, I kind of and not comedic, I kind of have to see it coming a bit. Whereas this is just like, whoa, that happened, which is fun in its own way, but it's fun in that it's so hyper condensed. It feels like it's suggestive of a bigger story. It's like how prequel nerds want to pick apart the prequel trilogy and explain every little secret subtextual.
It really is. It really is Anchorman both times, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It really is. That escalated quickly. That got out of hand fast, like both times. That's what it feels like.
Well, and I mean, first of all, I thought, okay, so here is the it did escalate quickly, but what I love, okay, maybe this is just to record my own instability, or represent that, but the I think part of it is that you have this place where Jerry is put in a position where like he chooses violence, right? And the only reason it doesn't go that way is because somebody pulls him back, right? And so like he's at the point of being down bad, right?
Him pulling the gun, yeah. I'll be, if I could clarify, him pulling the gun, it is. I would like to see it maybe like set up a little bit more, but it's very natural. If you get hit in the face, you get hit in the face with a heavy object. Like violence, often you see red. I buy that entirely.
Yeah, fight or flight.
But exactly. But my point is that he has this opportunity for growth, and he's able to take it and realize it because of Liz, right? But one of the things that you end up having with the counterpoint of that is that Roz and Miriam do not have a check. There is no one to pull them along, right? There's no one to hold them back, to redirect them, right? And so it shows that I think one of the things that shows that in Liz is that she has her growth arc has been one of in some ways it's the heroine's journey, right? Where she's coming back from this place of hurt into this place of bringing order, right? So of ordering the position of things. And I think that gives her a stability that allows Jerry to then be more stable and to be more of what Jerry ought to be rather than Jerry might be.
Let me paint of another version. You may not like this version, this ending, but let me paint a version of it that at least I think would be more fitting with what the tone of the story is. Still think this is Kino, Metal's right. But if they had done their Thelma and Louise moment and they had driven and they'd simply like wrecked their radiator, like just smashed the front of the car. And instead of seeing like them like die in a fiery explosion, you got to see the two characters who are like, we're ride or die with each other, actually have to deal with the consequences of their broken vehicle. Actually have to face the consequences of their relationship when everything isn't a Hollywood movie. And just watching them and what I know Evie could do with just those two.
Know how to work on a car.
And the fact that now suddenly we get to see the fact that not everything is rosy in this rosy fantasy they've created. Actually, they don't get along with each other nearly as well, and you get to see the seeds of what they will actually be facing in this relationship for the next however many years they're in it. Showing
one of
that,
them yelling, go back to the gas station to get help. He's like, I can't. I threw a bottle of wine at somebody back there.
And showing those consequences. And then showing Jerry and showing Liz see those consequences. Like that to me is, in my opinion, is, again, that other ending's still Kino, but I think for what Evie could do with that ending would be so much more emotionally impactful.
Okay, so that's interesting because I don't know if you've noticed this, but what you've done is you've started the Thelma and Louise ending and you're ending up with the
Graduate?
No, it wasn't The Graduate. Oh my gosh, it was in my brain. It's a college movie. National Lampoon. It's Animal House. That's the Animal House ending that you're describing.
I've never seen Animal House, so you'll have to spoil it for me.
Yeah. They have this great big. There's a giant car wreck, and everybody survives and walks out of it, and the police are called, and it's a whole thing.
Okay. But no, I'm just, like I said, so that's just what I think this, if the goal of the story is to do what some of the things I think Evie is trying to do, I think that's a much better way of doing it. This is, like I said, it's still Kino, it's still kind of exciting in its own way. And again, to Marmaduke's point, as a function of kind of like experimental indie comics, because it's so unexpected, there's something kind of cool about that. I really would like to see, again, want to see more. I would really like to see what Evie can do with that moment. And I think there's just just seeing like how a couple handles a broken down car, during or after their honeymoon phase. It says so much about what that relationship's going to be like. And like I said, that's just fruit for making the broader points that are being made here, which is the fact that the wages of sin are the emotional damage that are done. In fact, by the way, this is another point to this, is the fact that the sinner suffers just as much, if not more, than sometimes the victims of that said sin. We don't always see that. We just see them going, I'm so happy, I'm living for me. We don't always see the late nights of like the gnawing ennui of like, I gave up a family for this. And I have to plaster a smile on my face and pretend that I'm living my truth, when in fact, I'm actually like 1 second away. This is, by the way, something that happened during the 2024 election, when a lot of heavy lefties their campaign was on joy. And all the people that were saying joy, you could see the crazy in their eyes, and they were 1 beat away from losing it and going hysterical.
It
and
happened in 16 too. It was amazing.
What I'm saying is that what was funny in 2024 is they specifically chose the word joy, and I'm like, these people are the furthest away from joy that you could ever be. They were 1 manic moment away from screaming and like utterly throwing temper tantrums and melting down. And the thing is the fact that people who embrace sin are often lying to themselves as much as they're lying to the world when they say, I am so happy with my degenerate immoral choices. There's an emptiness, there is lack, there's a void. And so the sinner suffers quite a bit in sin, even though the sinner will often say how much they're enjoying themselves and having a blast. And that also brings empathy back in, which is another Christian element, which is the fact that when we say that we're against sin, we're also doing it in a protective sense. It's not, it's protecting of the sinner. And like I said, a lot of Christian media, I think, is not, misses that point, or that point doesn't get across. And so it's something that I think Eva could easily, not easily, but something this story was very set up to explore, that I would love to see.
Related to that, this story is doing exactly what I want to see happen in independent storytelling, but it exists in a rough form. So all of us were kind of like hypothesizing, Buddhist interpretations, because the story is so evocative, we started immediately imagining all these possibilities or scenarios with it, because the core story is there. I would like to see Joy write more. I do kind of like take the thought that, the art teacher in me is like, this is like a really cool art school comic project that has a lot of creative warmth behind it. I'd like to see maybe a little bit more of some of the traditional conventions of comics might be worth working with. But I do like the experimental lyrical style. Like, maybe you doing something in that kind of like rigid format might be a neat exercise to see if that, I don't know, maybe like imposes structure on your comic making style. Mm-hmm. It's very powerful writing with that leaves me craving more, but also that means I want to see more, and I want to see, I don't know, variations on the theme, or take a whole new direction. But I was really tickled by it.
Yeah, I'll take a step further and say I don't just want to see more. In some places, I need to see more in order for this story, I think, to fully live up to what its own rubric is in some places. Yeah. And that's me. Like I said, that's a criticism and a praise. Because it's like, I like the rubric that's being set up here. And I think that it's a worthwhile one, and it's being done quite well in many places. But there are other places where I think we're a little short here. So I'm having a high standard for this, and encouraging, hey, meet this high standard, like I said, is a praise itself. Because there are other artists where it's like, I set a less ambitious goal, but here it's like, no, I know you can, this is at a 7. I know this can be a 9.5. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot to, develop here. And, so I like what I'm seeing, and I want to see more. And in some places I need to see more.
It feels like a grungy pilot episode for a killer series.
I would say
it's more like
sorry, go ahead,
a movie where we just clip down all of the highlights to fit it onto YouTube or something like that, instead of watching the full movie. Like it has all the core scenes, but it's missing kind of like the drifting parts in between. Well, actually, it's missing a couple core scenes, like we brought up, but the parts that we did get, it's like it's the core scenes, but it doesn't have the stuff that connects the core scenes together, really.
The music montages to Pretty Dancer.
Reese already knows the films that because you're right. Like when you've lived longer and you've not just watched and or consumed media, but you've lived a life, you can fill in these gaps yourself. But I still I see where you're going with that. But I've said enough.
Yeah. I would like to address one thing in the chat. Isaac says the car burns, but you say they were pulled out by the other ex-partner and then shift to a hospital scene, one bittersweet goodbye, and then visit the parents like a new start. I would disagree, actually, because I think that a denouement any longer than a page in a story like this, not mean the epilogue, but I mean from the car wreck to whatever, any longer than a page, I think would really deaden it. Because I think it's got I like the quick ending, even if it's a little longer. Even if you see them fight over it, I think you could probably do that in a page, maybe page and a half. But I wouldn't want to drag on too long. We don't need the raising of the Shire.
Scourging of the Shire.
Scourging of the Shire.
I enjoyed the pace though, right? Like it was a really quick read. I think I read it today earlier, and I think I read it while I was eating lunch. It didn't take me any longer than lunch to read through it. Yeah. So I think the pacing is actually great. It's just missing the connective tissue, but the connective tissue should probably be moving at the same pace. Like it should still probably be a quick read. I think it probably, like the ultimate length this could ever be, probably shouldn't take more than a half hour to read.
I'm not certain about the length totally, but I do agree very much with the sentiment of what you expressed with the connective tissue should move at the same pace. Like I do agree with that. Yeah.
I mean, the metal is kind of the king of, and then a twist happens, and then a twist happens.
That is true. That is true. So
my stories are nothing but connective tissue. You don't even know where it's going.
That's also true.
Reading this reminded me kind of like of my days of art school, of banging out a comic and just like being in the flow of making that comic. And the comic is a total mess, but I love it for being, the mess that I have made. This is the work of someone with all the great connected, what would you call it? All the great traits needed to tell visual storytelling, hitting art elements, hitting story elements, in rough form. Which is what I enjoy. It's got a great creative spark. It's not the most polished, but that's okay for me. But I definitely want to read whatever Joy has in store for us next, essentially. Whether or not it's with these characters.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm very much in agreement with that.
So, Isaac, come on, man. I'm not going to put that on the screen. That's evil.
But fingers crossed that we don't get copyright struck by the creator.
Right, that'd be a bummer. I didn't mean to show the whole book, but I did end up going pretty much through the whole thing because I was just trying to get to individual pages, but it didn't have them tagged ahead of time.
I would definitely recommend people pick this one up, though.
Yeah,
even with our nitpicking and stuff.
In the description is a link to Joy's link tree, which has a link to her shop, where you can pick up Miriam. You can pick up Ground Cry. And eventually you'll be able to pick up Deep Calls to Deep, which is an awesome, beautiful mermaid story she's been working on pieces at a time. So
before we head out, I would love to give just a second, while we give some concluding thoughts. If chat have any questions for us or maybe Evie, since Evie's in chat, about either the creative process or specifically what went into Miriam, now is a great time to maybe ask any of those questions. So maybe give an opportunity for that, and we'll read those questions if any chat has any. Meanwhile, like I said, we can give any other concluding thoughts. I think Marmaduke already gave his very, very well. So I won't ask you to re-say.
I do
what
have
you've already,
a question for you.
already said so well.
Would you be willing to completely redraw this, but with mer people?
Sad Robot, Isaac Larkin says, do you have any other comics? I think Reese says yes. And there's also, I think, short kind of sketches and things on our Instagram.
Yep. And she's got one series called the One Place You Belong, which is about church, going to church. And then there's also a couple other projects she's done. I enjoy all of them, but Miriam's one of my faves. Also, Ground Cry. Oh my gosh, it's so good.
Sad Robot has a question. This is the question I have. Why do you keep switching usernames? That is true. I sometimes lose track. That's Evie again. But Evie says with mer guns to Metal's point.
It just pulls out like a small miniature harpoon gun to shoot instead.
Here's some art that Evie/Joy has done for me that will have a special place in my heart forever. So
that's Wannabe Gladiator. Yeah.
Yep.
That's the brother.
Yep, she was the very first person to ever draw fan art for me, so it tickles my heart to this day.
So she changes usernames because she's shy. I believe that.
That's no, I get it.
Yeah,
I will say this is something I had to pick up on eventually for comics creation, which was I could be anonymous or I could be a creator. And this is something
both. They just can't know the other one's you.
Gail Simone said this, which was kind of a bit of advice I got from her that I liked years and years ago at a convention. She said, you can't just write a brilliant story and lock it away in a drawer. Eventually, you're going to have to show it to people. You have to show it to the world. You're going to have to basically, walk out on that stage. And I think that is true. I have another friend who I was kind of giving this advice to, where I said, I know that you want to protect your anonymity, and but at the same time, if you want to really succeed in a creative space, you got to eventually grow that thicker skin and put yourself out there, because that's how you get a following. I think even Mr. Medicare, who's the other person who changes usernames and channels like a half dozen times, he's the only successful person I've seen who's been able to almost pull this off with like switching channels and switching names. But you'll notice that even with his massive audience, he's bled a lot of. He's okay with this, but he's bled so much following each time he's done that.
That's part of the intention, like being okay with, like, he wants to bleed it, because every single time it's like the core people find him again, and then it trickles into what's left of like that. Oh, the fringe audience who talks to the core people found his new thing because the core people found it.
But I will say that, like, if because that's not his goal, right? To be famous. But if his goal were to be like a creator who's really making a bunch of money off of his brand, like that's that'd be it's really bad for branding. So I will say eventually, Evie, you're gonna have to stick with one brand name somewhere so that we don't lose track of you.
From my perspective, like, number one Marmaduke fan exists because I wanted to be strictly anonymous, and I was nervous about that. And then over time, I attached my, genuine creative projects to it. It was the largest audience I had. So I eventually just said, whatever, here's my old Twitter account from art school. Here's my gamer tag account. So it's a bit, and it becomes a bit of a mess. Like, what do I use this account for? What do I use it? But that might be a way of starting. Like, if you are nervous about internet anonymity, which I respect, start with a simple, memorable username, use that for a while. And when you're ready to launch, then, Marm can be my nickname, right? But I have doxed that my first name was Josh when I went to Josh Fight.
Yeah.
An amazing coming out party, I gotta say.
Yeah. And I'm not saying I'm not calling for Evie to dox herself or anything when you're not comfortable. I am just saying that eventually, because I want to see indie creators to do better, to do more, to get more of a following, and someone as talented as you deserves to have more following. And so eventually it's important to be able to not shoot yourself in the foot on that. So that's I say this all out of love. I hope this doesn't come across as harsh or anything.
Well, and it is also one of those things too, where like on her link tree, like it's not hard to find her name on the books that you can purchase on her store. But it's also one of those things where like I can understand somebody having an online account that they don't necessarily attach to their
you at least need a consistent pen name.
Yep.
If you're going to be doing stuff like that.
Yep.
I'm completely public, have been since 2011. Some people think I'm not because of my username, but there's an actual nickname that I had growing up, so it's not like I'm anonymous through that either. But I've been public about everything. I also have a pen name though for logistics reasons. As long as you have a consistent pen name, though, people can follow you, people can track it. Like you can build a brand around a consistent.
Right? Yeah. No, that's fine. That's fine. Isaac Larkin says no one can figure out his name. He's completely anonymous. First name the, last name metal. There you go.
Well, clearly your name is Isa Clarkin.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Who is this? Isa
Clarkin. That's amazing. Well, that's the show, I think, for today. I don't know if we have anything else, unless there are any other questions that come up in the chat before as we're doing our signing off thing. As mentioned before, check out Joy's link tree. It's in the chat. And come back next week for more superheroes. We're going to be talking about the first couple issues of Exo Manowar.
Valiant. Finally, doing some Valiant. Yes.
As part of Willis has been asking for years.
The best comic book company you've never heard of.
We're finally doing it.
I might actually get in
more indie stuff sometime.
I tried to get in on Valiant like just as they were starting to push woke, diversity hire characters, and got a bad taste in my mouth. But I liked the ones I read before that.
We're talking, we're gonna do old Valiant, like Jim Shooter era.
Didn't it start like as a connection to like a weird video game tie-in? Like didn't they start with Turok Comics?
That was after.
That was after.
That was after. Yeah. They got purchased up by Acclaim. I think. And then they started doing the video game things. But that was after Shooter kind of started it. The way it started is that Shooter got ousted from Marvel, and he said, "You know what? I'm going to make a better Marvel with
cocaine and hookers."
Cocaine and hookers.
Yeah, and it actually did have blackjack and hookers. So yeah.
It's that's the thing. It's great. It's great. That's next week, and then a week after that, we are talking Popeye with Scott McCullough. He is coming back to talk about Popeye, which I'm super excited about. And then I think maybe the week after that we may be having oh my gosh, I cannot remember his name. Road Warrior Drake. Coming after that. Like we're still in discussions. But that's the possible thing is. So we've got some stuff scheduled. So show up next week. It's gonna be great. And until then, what are we going back to Wonder Woman? I don't know. Maybe never. Maybe never.
If it's popular, I'll make everybody suffer through it again.
Well, yeah, Jim likes to torture me. It's either Wonder Woman or blankets.
I was gonna say we're gonna have us do blankets again.
Well, as long as it allows us to have a few tangents about the Inklings, Mythopoeia, esoteric Buddhism, and and then come right back down to memes or whatever.
You're not going to get anything about that from blankets. Have you read blankets, Marm?
No, I haven't tried to read blankets yet.
Oh, don't save yourself, friend.
It's actually a much faster read than you would expect. It looks like a doorstop. It reads pretty fast. Yeah. I will say that's one of the saving graces.
I did not find it fast to read.
Actually,
that's largely because I tried to suffocate myself with a pillow every other page.
Marm, actually, you need to read it, and we do need to, maybe not on this channel, but we need to have a talk because you're going to get a lot out of blankets. It may not be good things, but you're going to get a lot.
I've heard of blankets through reputation, so it's always kind of been on that short list of the serious, I guess LGBT themed graphic novel.
Let me sell it. I'm going to sell it to Marm. Okay,
it's artistically.
It is. So blankets is demonstrates that. Oh crap! Who's the? I'm blanking on.
You're blanking on blanket.
Craig Thompson. Craig Thompson is the anti Doug Tenable.
Yeah.
That's the pitch. That's the interesting thing to tease out, is that he's Doug Tenable, except if Doug Tenable had had a crisis of faith and abandoned God.
All right, that's interesting.
Yeah, I knew I was.
He's the Wario as well, Luigi.
He is. And now that I've said that, when you read it, like you'll totally like, oh my gosh, because like the art style is like it's a similar register. They're both like dealing with certain like similar issues in some cases. It's just it's fascinating.
It's not an LGBT book per se, although it is kind of gay. But I don't want to talk about blankets on stream anymore. Let's just call it a day.
Okay.
But yeah, the other thing is that last question is Joy says, have you done Marbles yet? Not on the show. I did read it. It's great.
Mm-hmm. Marbles is pretty good.
Yeah, Marbles is great. It's probably one of the better memoir comics. I don't like it better than oh my gosh, my brain's skipping on me.
Joe Sacco's Palestine?
No, I do like it better than Palestine.
Aw.
Yeah. Oh, come on. It's the guy who gets cancer in his throat.
Oh gosh, yeah. Crap. I know it's Stitches.
Stitches. It's sitting over there on my shelf. But yeah, I like Stitches better than Marbles, but Marbles is good. Yeah, it's Stitches. She pulls it up there. I really like Stitches. Okay, go. That's it. That's the show. So, till next week, get out there, read some comics. We'll be doing Valiant. So enjoy. And until next time, this is Reese for Monitor Duty, signing off. Miriam, too.
They go to space. Yeah.